and in particular we are talking about the 12th meeting of the Basel Convention COP, the 7th meeting of the Rotterdam Convention COP, and the 7th meeting of the Stockholm Convention COP. The meetings will be held back-to-back in Geneva, Switzerland from the 4th to the 15th of May 2015. The meetings will feature joint sessions, but will not feature high-level segment nor extraordinary meetings of the COPs. The theme of the meetings will be From Science to Action, Working for a Safer Tomorrow. The meetings are expected to be attended by around 1,500 participants coming from around 183 country parties. The meetings will be taking place at the venue Geneva International Conference Center, CICG. So those were some highlights about the meeting. Regarding invitations and registration, the invitation letters, provisional agendas, as well as information for participants were sent last year on the 27th of November 2014. The deadline for the registration as well as request for financial assistance was end of January of this year. The nominations for registrations to the meetings were to be communicated to the Secretariat through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the Permanent Mission, together with an official nomination letter or note verbal. You can find the name and the email address of the contact person in the Secretariat for anything related to registrations to the meetings. Regarding effective participation by delegates, funding is available for eligible parties. In particular, if the country party is the country is a party to several conventions. For example, if a country is a party to the 3 conventions, funding can be made available to up to 3 participants for the whole 2 weeks duration. You can find on the slide the donors that have already provided funding for sponsoring the participants' travel or that have already pledged funding. So you have the European Union, Denmark, Finland, Germany, Japan, Norway, Poland, Sweden, and Switzerland. As we will see a little bit later in the presentation, a tentative schedule of work has been agreed for the meetings. But however, it's possible that changes would be made in the timing of the sessions, so it's important that this is taken into account when you organize your travel arrangements. There will also be a limited number of contact groups running in parallel to allow for delegations to participate in most of the discussions that is either taking place in plenary or in contact groups. We will ensure that there are not too many contact groups running in parallel. And as usual, meetings organized for the COPs are paperless. So you are encouraged to bring your laptop, because all documents, especially documents generated in session, will be made available on an internet for the meetings. Regarding credentials, the 3 bureaus of the conferences of the parties agreed on an approach for the preparation of respective reports on credentials during the meetings. So what was agreed is that original and copies of credentials in good order will be accepted, with the understanding that the original will be submitted as soon as possible. Regarding submission of credentials, they are to be issued by the head of state or head of government or by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Submission of credentials to the Secretariat should be no later than 24 hours after the opening of the meetings. So in the case of the upcoming meetings, this would mean that credentials need to be submitted by 10 a.m. on Tuesday, 5th of May. You can find model for credentials in the 6 UN languages on the website, of the meetings. And it's also possible to arrange credentials for the 3 meetings in one document. A number of meeting documents have been prepared that you can also find on the website. So you will be available the professional agendas of the meetings, budget documents which have been posted online on the 4th of February, as well as all other meeting documents that were posted on the 4th of March. So you might be able to find those documents on the website already. It is to be noted that a number of documents will be joint. A number of documents will be then considered by the 3 COPs. Turning now to the organization of work, as I indicated before, there will be no high-level segment nor extraordinary meetings of the COPs. That was decided by the COPs at their meetings in 2013. So a similar approach than the one that was applied for the COPs in 2013 will be the same this time. So for example, we will have pre-meetings the day before the meeting starts. So this, for example, will include meetings of the bureaus and meetings of the regional groups. Then there will be on the 1.5 days joint sessions on the issues that are common to the 3 COPs. And then you will have separate sessions of the COPs in the following order: Stockholm, Basel, and Rotterdam. And then the meeting will conclude with some joint sessions or separate sessions as necessary. So I would like to show you on the next 2 slides the tentative schedule that was discussed and agreed by the 3 bureaus to the COPs for the upcoming meetings. So we have on this slide the first week. So we can see that the meetings will start on Monday, the 4th of May. Each COP will adopt its agenda for the meeting. Then we will have, as I said, 1.5 days of joint session. And here you can see listed those joint issues. For example, you will have POPs waste technical guidelines, which is an issue that is common to the Basel Convention and the Stockholm Convention. You will find other joint issues on technical assistance, financial resources, but also compliance. This joint issue will be limited to compliance under Rotterdam and Stockholm. So that would be a joint session only for compliance under those 2 conventions. Then you have international cooperation, budget, and other matters. Then we will enter the separate sessions of the Stockholm COP, as you can see in orange, for three full days. And then there will be 3 days of the Basel COP in green that will continue on the 2nd week. And then we will have the Rotterdam COP that will be a little bit shorter, 2.5 days only. And then on the last day, as I said, a mixture of joint session and separate sessions of the COPs in order for the COPs to adopt any pending decisions. So it's also to be noted that there will be no formal meeting on the Sunday between the 2 weeks. And that you can see that contact groups will be running during the 2-week period, and each morning there will be a report to be made in plenary. A little bit like what was done for the 2013 COPs. On the next slide, I will show you in more details the issues that will be at the agendas of the COPs. So here on that slide, we can see the joint issues. So those are items that are on each at the agenda of each COP, but they will be introduced and discussed jointly in plenary. So organizational matters, POPs waste. Then you will have technical assistance. Under technical assistance, you will also have the item related to regional centers, Under financial resources, there will be also considerations on the integrated approach for the financing of chemicals and wastes, and other matters as I indicated earlier. Now we are looking at the main issues that are at the agenda of the Basel COP. This is not a comprehensive list of issues. You would need to refer back to the provisional agenda of the COP to have the full list. Here we are really talking about the main issues. So you have the follow-up to the country-led initiative. Under this matter, you will have 3 main components: the ban amendment, the work under the expert group on the environmental sound management of waste, and then the third component is on further legal clarity. Another important area of work is on technical guidelines. Here, the Basel COP will have 7 technical guidelines on POPs waste to consider, either updated ones or newly developed ones. There will also be the technical guidelines on e-waste, and finally the updated technical guidelines on mercury waste. With that, we can also see that there will be the work under the Implementation and Compliance Committee. So the committee will report on its work. In particular, it will forward to the COP 4 draft guidance documents that it has developed in the intersessional period. There will be also consideration given to the review of the implementation fund and the draft program of work for the next biennium to be considered and adopted by the COP. If we continue quickly, you have also issues related to national reporting, the Cartagena Declaration, partnerships under the Basel Convention, including the PACE and INFORCE. Then we have matters related to ships, including environmental sound dismantling of ships, as well as environmental sound management of waste generated on board. And finally, on the slide, we can also note that there will be at the agenda of the BC COP12, the operations and program of work of the OEWG. So we can see a heavy agenda for the COP to the Basel Convention. Moving on now to the Rotterdam Convention COP7. Here is a list of some key issues that will be considered by the COP. We have 5 chemicals to be considered for listing to Annex 3 to the Convention. So you have 2 severely hazardous pesticide formulations, Santion formulation, as well as paraquat dichloride formulation. You will also have 2 pesticides, methamidophos, as well as trichlorphone. And finally, the 5th chemical to be considered by the COP is chrysotile asbestos. The COP to the Rotterdam Convention will also further consider, for possible adoption, procedures for non-compliance under the Convention. And other matters will be related to the status of implementation of the Convention, such as topics related to import responses and notification of final regulatory actions. All right, so moving on to the Stockholm Convention COP. Here again, a number of issues for consideration. Regarding the listing of chemicals in the annexes to the Convention, the POPROC, the Persistent Organic Pollutants Review Committee, recommended 3 chemicals for listing. So we have chlorinated naphthalines, which are recommended for listing to Annexes A and C without specific exemptions. We have hexachlorobutadiene, which is recommended for listing to Annexes A and C without specific exemptions. And you have also pentachlorophenol and its salts and esters, which is recommended for listing to Annex A with specific exemptions for the production and use of pentachlorophenol for utility poles and crossed arms. There will be also the provisional, the procedures for determining non-compliance under the Stockholm Convention. Other matters will relate to specific exemptions and acceptable purposes. There will also be the evaluation of the continued need for PFOS and its specific exemptions and acceptable purposes. There will also be an evaluation for the continued need for DDT, for disease vector control. And the COP will also consider a roadmap on the development of alternatives to DDT that was developed by UNEP Chemicals in consultation with others. Other topics will relate to best available techniques and best environmental practices, development of national implementation plans. Here, for those two last items, a number of guidance documents were developed to assist parties in that regard. Other work under the Stockholm Convention will be on the global monitoring plan, reporting, and also the evaluation of efforts towards the elimination of PCBs. With that, we would like to inform you about possible contact groups that could be established during the meetings. So this list was considered by the bureaus to the COPs, and this is tentative, but it aims at giving some indication to the participants to the meetings. So there will be, during the 2013 COPs, there will be some joint contact groups, as well as some specific convention group. So regarding joint contact groups, it is expected that there will be a joint contact group on budget. It is also expected to have a joint contact group on technical assistance and financial resources. And then it was considered that it might be likely that a Friends of the President's group to discuss the terms of reference for the review of the synergies arrangements could be established. So it means a smaller group to be established on this issue. Regarding contact groups under the Basel Convention, you have the three traditional contact groups. First one is on compliance and legal matters, second one on technical matters, and third one on strategic matters. Under the Rotterdam Convention COP, for now, two possible groups have been identified. First one relates to the listing of chemicals, and second one, which is a small group, taking the form of a Friends of the President's group, would be established on compliance. Regarding the Stockholm Convention COP, we have similar groups than those established or that could be considered for establishment under the Rotterdam Convention COP. Okay, so that was some information about the provisional agendas of the COP. Now I would like also to give you some information about what will happen at the meetings, but in the margins of the meetings. So a science fair will be organized during 3 days from the 7th to the 9th of May on the margins of the COPs, as it was felt important to increase awareness and understanding about the scientific processes under the conventions. So there will be a number of events and activities undertaken. There will be in the exhibition area a number of booths where information will be made available to the participants, and with a number of interactive tools that could be used. There will also be special events such as an opening ceremony, panel discussions, as well as presentation by experts. A number of materials will be distributed, hands-out videos, or be made available to people. A number of partners are involved in the implementation of the science fair. In particular, members of the subsidiary bodies or members of expert groups under the conventions. We have also the involvement of regional centers and IGOs like FAO, WHO, UNEP, UNIDO, UNITAR, UNESCO. The industry as well as NGOs are also involved. And finally, we have also interns and student volunteers. In addition to the science fair, there will be the traditional side events and exhibition booths that will be organized in the City or meeting venue of the meetings. Side events are extremely important and a vital component of the meetings as they provide opportunities for information dissemination, but also to continue possible further policy discussions on certain aspects that are discussed, for example, in plenary. So you can see on the slide that registrations for side events can be made until the 28th of March. So the deadline is coming very soon. In addition to the meetings themselves, it was decided, the parties to the conventions at their last meetings decided to organize regional preparatory meetings prior to the actual meetings of the COPs. So by the mandate of the 2013 COPs, this year, 4 regional preparatory meetings will be organized during this month and beginning of April to assist parties in considering the matters that will be presented to the COPs. So that would be an opportunity given to parties to undertake consultations and perhaps as necessary to come with regional positions. The bureau members of each region have been involved in the preparations and the development of the programs. In order to enable the meetings to happen, financial support has been received by the government of Switzerland and the European Union. It is also to be noted that the regional preparatory meetings will be held back-to-back with workshops in support for the ratification and effective implementation of the Minamata Convention on mercury. So on the current slide, on the present slide, you can see the dates and locations of the regional preparatory meetings. So for example, the Asia and Pacific Regional Preparatory Meeting will take place next week in Jakarta, Indonesia. It will then be followed by the Regional Preparatory Meeting for Africa in Gigiri, Nairobi. And then there will be also the meeting in CE from the 7th to the 10th of April in Bratislava. And then finally, there will be the Regional Preparatory Meeting for the GRULAC region in Montevideo, Uruguay. So you can find more information also on the regional preparatory meetings on the website for the BRS COPs meetings. On that slide, you will find information regarding the programs that have been developed for the regional preparatory meetings. So the programs are building on the provisional agendas of the COPs, and the programs were tailored according to the requests received from the regions. It is interesting to note that there will be a joint session between the BRS regional preparatory meeting with the Minamata Convention workshop. So there will be a joint session between the two meetings. with this slide, so I'm coming to a close now, just to indicate to you that other briefings were conducted on the 2015 COPs. We had, for example, briefing for permanent missions in Geneva. A first briefing was done in January, and another briefing will take place in April. There will also be an upcoming briefing in Rome, a date to be confirmed. And there will also be 2 other opportunities to join a webinar next week, I think in Russian and Spanish. Okay, with this information, I would like to conclude my presentation and indicate to you the hyperlinks to connect to the meeting web pages, where additional information can be found about the upcoming meetings. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Marilyn, for this very informative presentation. We will now hear from Yvonne Ewang, the second presentation on compliance under the Rotterdam and Stockholm Conventions. After that, we will start the questions and answers session. Yvonne, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, and good morning and good afternoon to all the participants. I will present to you the issue of compliance under the Rotterdam and Stockholm Conventions. I will be giving this presentation on behalf of my colleague, Ms. Juliette Kohler, who is responsible for this issue, and unfortunately cannot be with us this afternoon. So to start off with, the legal basis for the issue of compliance is set out in the respective Articles 17 of both the Rotterdam and the Stockholm Conventions, which state with identical text, the Conference of the Parties shall, as soon as practicable, develop and approve procedures and institutional mechanisms for determining non-compliance with the provisions of this convention and for the treatment of parties found to be in non-compliance. The issue of compliance was first initiated at the first meetings of the conferences of the parties in 2005, building on work that was done during the intergovernmental negotiating committees. It was most recently considered during the 6th meetings of the conferences of the parties in 2013, where compliance was considered as a joint issue within a joint contact group. That led to the adoption of 2 decisions. Firstly, the decision RC 6/9 by the Conference of the Parties to the Rotterdam Convention, and the decision SC 6/24 by the Conference of the Parties to the Stockholm Convention, where both of the COPs decided to consider compliance further at their 7th meetings for adoption of the procedures and mechanisms on compliance required under Article 17 of the respective conventions, and working on the basis of the draft text reflecting the outcome of the work of the contact group that met during COP6. And the outcome of this contact group discussion is annexed to those 2 decisions. The issue of compliance was also considered by the Stockholm and the Rotterdam Conventions Bureau during their respective individual meetings. The Stockholm COP7 Bureau met from 14th to 15th of May 2014, and then the Rotterdam Convention COP7 Bureau met the 4th and 5th of June 2014. Both of the bureaus supported that intersessional efforts should be undertaken in an effort to resolve outstanding issues on compliance, including by organizing a luncheon for permanent missions in Geneva to provide information, and preparing a brief on compliance outlining the state of affairs and presenting solutions under other conventions for addressing the issues that are still outstanding in relation to the Rotterdam and Stockholm compliance mechanisms. There was also a joint meeting of the Bureau on the 11th and 12th of November 2014, where the Bureau agreed in relation to the organization of work that there would be a joint introductory session on Rotterdam and Stockholm compliance. As you may recall, Marilyn referred to in her introduction with the table in the first day and a half of the meetings. And then compliance could be considered as a convention-specific issue, including through 2 Friends of the President's groups. For the specifics of compliance leading up to the Conference of the Parties, the bureaus welcomed the organization of this luncheon with the permanent missions in Geneva prior to the regional preparatory meetings. The luncheon took place in February this year, and there is also the brief on compliance, which has been prepared by the Secretariat and was considered and welcomed by the Bureau. And the Bureau requested the Secretariat to disseminate this brief through webinars like the one today, as well as through the 2015 regional preparatory meetings. The brief has been also prepared as a meeting document for the Conferences of the Parties. It is set out in the Rotterdam Convention COP7 INF 12 document, and in the Stockholm Convention COP7 INF 40 documents. And those are both available on the hyperlink that was indicated at the end of Marilyn's presentation. In terms of the structure, the brief includes an introduction. It then goes into an overview of the compliance negotiations under the conventions, giving an overview and a history of those negotiations. It looks at outstanding issues, and the appendices include possible lessons learned from compliance procedures under other multilateral environmental agreements, as well as reproducing the text of the decisions RC 69 and SC 624. So what are those outstanding issues? Under the Rotterdam Convention, there are 2 specific issues that remain unresolved. Firstly, the decision-making rule on matters of substance, in case the committee is unable to reach agreement by consensus. And secondly, a possible 3rd trigger for submissions, which would mean a possibility for the Secretariat to make a submission to the committee. There are 3 issues that remain unresolved under the compliance procedures for the Stockholm Convention, namely the scope of the procedures. Like for Rotterdam, there is also an unresolved issue about a possible 3rd trigger for submissions, in this case either by the Secretariat or the committee with respect to any obligation under the Convention. And the 3rd unresolved matter would be possible action that could be taken by the Conference of the Parties, with brackets around types of action relating to issuing a statement of concern, requesting the Executive Secretary to make public cases of non-compliance, and suspending rights and privileges under the Convention, or undertaking any final action that may be required. In addition, there are brackets around a paragraph referring to consequences that would not be applicable to developing countries or countries with economies in transition, whose non-compliance is due to lack of technology or technical and financial assistance, and a paragraph requiring the committee to take into full account the specific needs and special situation of least developed countries and small island developing states. In relation to the Stockholm Convention text, there are also brackets around the title of the procedures as to compliance or non-compliance. The brief that's been prepared by the Secretariat looks at possible lessons that could be learned from other multilateral environmental agreements, considering the mechanisms under the Basel Convention, the Cartagena Protocol, CITES, the ESPO Convention, the ITPGRA, the Kyoto Protocol, the London Protocol, Minamata Convention, Montreal Protocol, Nagoya Protocol, and the Rotterdam and Stockholm Conventions. It must be highlighted, and it's important to note, that the information in the brief is provided without prejudice to parties' understanding and interpretation of these MEAs and the decisions adopted within those frameworks. And the Secretariat would advise for a complete overview of these matters to refer to each MEA, the rules of procedures, and terms of reference for those compliance procedures. Turning specifically to the scope of the compliance procedures, which has yet to be resolved in relation to the Stockholm Convention, Table 1 of the brief provides an overview of the approach that's been taken in relation to 11 multilateral environmental agreements. And the review included consideration of the obligations and commitments under each convention, all the provisions of the convention, and the provisions of the MEA. None of the procedures that were reviewed in relation to the brief specify individual provisions of the MEA and falling within the scope of that mechanism. In relation to the Rotterdam Convention, as mentioned a few minutes ago, there are still brackets in relation to decision making. Table 2 of the brief provides an overview of the approach, again in relation to all 11 MEAs, including 3 where there are still brackets for the decision making rule. And so that text is still draft for those 3 MEAs. The decision-making rule or the draft text on rules on matters of substance include the possibility for decision-making by majority or by 2/3 majority, 3/4 majority, and also by consensus. So there's quite a variety considered. Under both the texts for Stockholm Convention and Rotterdam Convention, there are brackets around the issue of a third trigger, be that a possible Secretariat or committee trigger. Table 3 of the brief provides an overview of the approach taken in relation to 8 MEAs, providing for either a Secretariat or a committee trigger. And it assesses that formulations vary with respect to the conditions for use of such a trigger, namely the specification of the functions of the Secretariat that are relevant to the trigger, and which obligations would be under consideration. The last issue in relation to the Stockholm Convention would be what possible action could be taken by the COP. And this is dealt with in Table 4 of the brief, which provides an overview in relation to the approach of 11 MEAs, including an MEA where the committee applies the consequences, being the Kyoto Protocol, and 1 draft compliance procedure, a comparison with the Rotterdam Convention. Measures of a similar type to those that are currently in brackets in the text of the procedures under the Stockholm Convention include issuing a caution or warning, publishing non-compliance, requesting specific action, so for example special reporting or submitting a compliance action plan, suspension of rights and privileges, or taking other measures as appropriate. Table 4 of the brief also reflects on the way in which the Conference of the Parties takes into account the special needs or circumstances of particular groups of countries when deciding on a measure. As mentioned earlier, there is this issue of the title of the procedures for Stockholm as well, and Section E lists the titles of the procedures adopted or under consideration for the 11 MEAs reviewed for the purpose of the brief. The majority of these titles do refer to compliance rather than non-compliance. So that brings me to the end of this presentation, and thank you for your attention.